Hey everyone, and welcome back to the YouTube channel. I thought I would share with you today, I have got this old Proform treadmill. It's a 545S. I got this new as a Christmas present from Sears many years ago. They sell the parts for it, and well, they're still available. So I'm going to go ahead and do a repair on this. Let us show you what is happening with it. Now, this is run pretty well, consistently, with no problems. I think I probably got this in about 1999. So here I've set this on 3. So it goes along steady. Now, yesterday we turned it on, and it just kept skipping. It didn't want to go. Now, that could be one of 3 things. There is a bearing on the front roller that could be catching and stopping the belt. In general, though, when you actually stand on it is when the problem starts. It generally will spin on its own until you start walking, which gives you the tripping effect. So you have to hang on, and once it's warmed up, it seems to do better and not have any issues with that. That being said, a new one of these is, $500 to $1,000, and it doesn't get used enough to justify that money. I really enjoy walking outside, but my son will walk at night, and it's really helped him a lot because he was enjoying that time to himself in peace and quiet, and it was healthy for him. It can be a drive motor, and it can be a drive belt. So the actual treadmill belt is fine. It hasn't had enough hours of use. Now, see, just now I heard it slow down a bit. You might not have heard that with the furnace fan going. The trouble is, everything is accessed underneath this panel. There's no screws or anything, so I've been doing a little exploring in it. And it just snaps on. So, looking here on the side, I could see little tabs. See right there, there's a little tab. So, this has been stored in our basement, and it is temperature controlled, but it does get pretty chilly down here. So warming it up has had an effect on it. Let me show you what's happening. So I'm gonna hop on. See, it won't go under my weight. Now, that shouldn't be the issue. So we know the motor is going. I think the belt is stripped. So for safety, I've gone ahead and pulled the power on that, and we're going to unplug it before we do anything else. So to get access to the motor, the bearings, and the drive belt, we have to open up this access panel or cover. Now, you want to be very careful with it because you don't want to have to buy a replacement if that is not necessary. Now, we walk with hand weights and whatever, and things can drop on it from time to time. I know one of the kids dropped a weight ball here on it. It's not affecting the functionality of it. This basically just sits on. It does not just snap on. It has 4 screws. So I've gone ahead and laid it on its side and done a quick dusting off. There is a screw. This section goes next to the side rails. There's a screw in each one, and then 2 screws in the front. They're just Phillips. You need a long stemmed Phillips screwdriver. If you have, see, this one's not quite long enough. I need to go get one that's a little bit longer than this. If you have a drill with an attachment, that can work also. Okay, so just in opening it up, I do want to mention I laid it back down so that I could open it, because you can see right there is where the belt meets the panel. So the front part would be inaccessible to be able to take that cover off. And this is just an easier way rather than trying to work on its side. So just opening it up, I've had some mouse friends in here because they have easy access right through there. Good spot to put a mouse bait. Little bits of belt wear. See all that little black? That is the belt getting worn. Now, to know if it's the bearing, you should be able to just rotate it by hand. And it's going easily enough. It wasn't that it wasn't going at all. So, because when I started it yesterday, it didn't go at all, I thought, okay, something is jammed or not getting the power, which could be the belt slipping, the bearing, or this drive motor. A good tip for you is, besides your model number, your motor has information on it too. So this is a 2.65 horsepower motor, 21.4 amps. And if you, at this time, feel that your belt needs replaced, it's a great time to go ahead and do that. This little screw right here, there's one attaching the front and the back so that this whole thing can cantilever upwards. And in the back also, you just have to detach that back panel so that you can get a new belt. We repair everything we can, and I don't have time to go to a gym or have somebody come in and deal with this. It's just easier for me to do it. And parts are so readily available online now, it's a good time to do it. So what I'm going to do here is we have to run a test to see if the belt is slipping while we're going. Don't have little kids or anyone around you when you're doing this. Make sure your hair is up if you are a lady like me with long hair, because you don't want your hair getting caught in any moving parts, because I guarantee you if it catches, it will pull you in and cause injury. So for this part, I am going to plug it in and run a test. So if you're not sure about testing motors, you can easily look up on YouTube how to test there. We've got a couple of contacts on the side for putting our testing probes here and down at the bottom. And this is called a multimeter. This is an analog meter, so when that needle moves, when it is in contact on the probe ends, right here, you can get a reading of hopefully 21.4 amps or 2.65 horsepower. So we're just going to go ahead and get our settings set up on this and go ahead and do a test with it running. Okay, so here's everything running with the cover off. Now I did all my testings on my motor. Everything looks okay. I didn't think the belt looked that bad, so I did a walking test on it, and I can't really do that and film as well. We can try, but at a higher speed it hesitates less, so the belt starts picking up some speed and doesn't hesitate. So here I've got it set on the number 3 like I normally would just do a leisure walk, and it slows down. The further I get away, it seems to do better. Now as I increase speed, see, you have to hang on because it just messes you up. Plus I don't have shoes on. So I'm pretty sure that the belt is the issue, just based on how it's acting with the resistance of the weight and all of my belt shavings there. I would expect more belt shavings than this to be worn, but because of the temperature, the way it is acting, that it wants to warm up, and when you actually have your weight on it, that is, there's the windings right down here for this motor, and I was watching that. It's spinning at the same rate as is the shaft right here coming out of the motor, and the only thing that I can see hesitating is that the belt is skipping as it's going. Now this is a grooved belt or a V belt. So when I get this off, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the wheel that it runs on to make sure that it is not caked up or worn in any way. So we're going to go ahead and work on that now. Now, if you're like me, the first thing I did when I noticed my belt slipping is I did adjustments. And there are some Allen screws right down here on the end that tighten up your belt. And what it's doing is pulling this closer to you. So I've backed those back off to loosen the tension on the belt to be able to get to this next step. So to be able to loosen the belt to get to the drive belt, the treadmill or walking belt, you can see that screw that I showed you before. I pulled that out, and it takes a little bit of doing. So I've got an assortment of like Allen wrench shaped Phillips head tools. This one worked the best for me. And then I switched to a screwdriver once I got it loose because it was nice and tight. So that was pulling that so close that way. There was no way I was going to be able to move this. And now it's nice and loose, and I can lift it right up. Now, lifting that up, and this is where I was talking about being able to make adjustments or change your walking belt if needed. So now, that same shaft is on the other side of this belt here. So I'll be able to, with two hands, pull this out, probably twisting it at the same time to get that released. There we go. And now I can just slip that belt off of this end here, off of the drive wheel first, and then off of the motor. And your belt will have a part number right on it, and you can look that up and get a replacement part coming. The belt for this is between $15 and $25, depending on if it's including shipping or not. So I'm going to be able to get this coming and have it here in 2 to 3 days. So I just slowly shifted this to the side to be able to work the belt off of the edge. It's very similar to changing a belt in a vacuum cleaner. So just that easy, I've got that belt off. The hardest part about this is trying to have my two hands and to show you what I'm doing at the same time. So if you didn't have the voltmeter to check your voltage or amps out of your motor coming out, one thing to watch for is with and without the belt, the speed of the shaft. This comes out on one end, and you can see it on this end as you're walking or having it running. And then the other thing is, I had mentioned bearings. This spins so easy that there's no way that that is catching. It's real easy to turn. This isn't having any problem turning as well either. It's just making sure that it's having the voltage to continue. I've looked at the belt, and it's really hard to see, but these grooves should be deeper than they are. They're pretty well worn, and I have got like chewed up bits in the V grooves. And then here on the edge, you can actually see this is got metal in parts of the belt. I could see little metal ropes right in here. So we're going to go ahead and get that coming. Well, after some delays, my new belt finally came. eBay came through, and I was able to get an exact belt. I ordered it through them because it was a bit cheaper than ordering it online. I think I probably saved $8 to $10, not a big deal. And it was only like an hour and a half drive from my house, but yeah, they didn't do local pickup, just delivery. You can see right there the grooves in it, the V-belt, there we go. And the same number is on it right here. So we're just going to do the same thing in reverse now. Yeah. Looks like a real good match. I'm going to go ahead and I don't know if it's better to go one way or the other. So I'm just going to feed this on the spindle. It's just like putting a bicycle chain back on. Maybe if I start here. The things you have to learn, the more things you buy, is how it works out. They say more money, more problems, and it goes the same for the things you own. It'll give you a lot of room to work with your fingers. Use my pry bar to help me, just to get that in there. Don't want to damage your belt. Alright. Oh, that's going good. Ish. So getting the belt on here and this spindle in is a bit difficult because you are putting everything under tension again. This end of the spindle won't go into its housing unless I can knock this in that way. So I've gotten myself, I don't want to hit this directly. Also, this cross beam is in the way. So I'm going to see if I can either pry it or tap it into place. A little bit. It's a tricky situation. I've let more tension off the rear end of the belt also. And just because we use the basement for storage, I don't have a lot of space. There we go. All right, so that looks good. It's on there good. Now we just have to get our anchor bolt back in there. And that was the tricky one. You gotta make sure that you're all lined up to get that. You may probably need that pry bar again to get everything lined up. Remember, working with some plastic parts here. right here is where it gets difficult because you're putting that screw right here through this end of the roller and then through the back side of its mounting bracket also. So I've got it started and I've got it through the other side. I just have to use the pry bar to lift up on this a bit. So I'm going to get it right into there. So you can see here, as I fed that screw through and I got through the back part of the mounting plate, it pulled this forward. And as this isn't going to stop, it's going to just keep threading this more. And when I go down here on the ends with the Allen wrench, I can put the tension on the belt, and that's going to bring this back that way by pulling on the belt. So I don't want to over tighten this. At this point, I'm going to go down there and start putting tension in on those Allen bolts. And remember, your belt needs to be centered between this outer ridge here and here. When you first put it on, it's going to want to set here. I slowly guided it to this center part and just kept rotating it to make sure that it was going to stay and not jump. Right here are those Allen screws. Now, if you do this one way or another too much, your belt is not going to be aligned. So you can see right here, just from working on it, my belt is way over on this side, and we've got to even them out so that it will get here, because I think I over loosened it over there as I was working. So we're going to get this lined up. Now for me, when I took that spindle out here, I let my front part of my belt kind of go that way. So it was going to do me more good to manually move that than to just Allen wrench it over, because after a test, I was still rubbing here on the side. So I just loosened those back up and got this centered by giving it a little tug as I rolled it. So now I've got, you know, like a, 3/4 to a 1/2 inch on both sides, nice and even. I think it'll do a little better that way. So I'm going to plug it in and give it another little test on a low speed. So you can see my belt's all replaced. Now I can just go ahead and put that front cover assembly back on. I'm just going to do the same thing. Lay it on its side so I can access those 4 screws, and I'll be all sealed back up. And now I can walk with freedom once again with no skipping. I don't have to hang on for fear of falling. And this little test is working out. So if you're like us and the winter's helped you gain a little weight, now is the time to get your treadmill, get your equipment out, get it cleaned up, get it fixed. I don't set New Year's resolutions, but I noticed when my pants started getting a little tighter and I knew it was time to start walking. And my daughter's learned how to bake, so she's giving Mom all the sugar treats she can. And it's hard to say no to a sweet little girl like that. You gotta sample everything for her, tell her she did a good job. So I'm gonna do a good job and get myself on a good long walk. And we'll see you next time. Bye!